Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline at Pixie Dust PhD. We are back to talk about the Disability Access Service Program at Walt Disney World again. Previously on the channel, we have gone over basic information about Disability Access Service, or DAS. That video seems like it's helped a lot of you, and I'm really grateful for that. It has also resulted in a lot of private exchanges between me and some of you in direct message format. There's still a lot of questions and confusions, and I can totally understand that because the prior video was a pretty basic overview. For this video, I've compiled a bunch of your feedback and put it into themed buckets. So we'll go over some of those more nuanced questions. I really want to say thanks and directly acknowledge that your comments and feedback absolutely influence the content on the channel. If you do find the content helpful, remember to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. You can ring the bell icon to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. And your comments on videos are super appreciated. They help out with the YouTube algorithm a lot. I can certainly appreciate that some of the topics you've sent to me in direct message format are things that are a little bit more sensitive in nature and you probably don't want in public comments. But if you could help me out and leave a comment that's more generic saying, hey, I'm going to direct message you, or thanks for the video, I have some follow-up questions, that would help me out so much too. And before we get to the themes of the questions I've gotten a lot from you all in direct message format, I do have some disclaimers. I have never worked for the Walt Disney Corporation, so there surely is some inside intel that I'm not privy to. I also am not a lawyer, and there are exceptions to everything in certain circumstances. So we may go over some rules, for example, that broadly apply, but there may be instances where things could change. We're also going to do a bit of myth busting in this video, and a lot of that's going to be presented from a more corporate point of view. Your experiences as an individual are absolutely valid. I'm just trying to present to you what I think the company may be thinking when making such decisions. And to avoid this being an hour long, I'm going to try to move pretty fast. Check the description below for timestamps for various topics that we'll cover. Additionally, in your individual YouTube player settings, you can adjust the playback speed to be slower if that would be helpful for you. As a brief reminder, we did cover the general overview information of the DAS program previously. Those were items like eligibility, registration, the penalty for lying, how you actually use DAS once you're in the parks, DAS Advance, the valid time period, and a bit more. If you need a refresher on any of that information, please go ahead and check out that previous video on the channel. I will link it in the description below. The first big theme I've been asked a lot is, will this specific condition be covered? What exactly will I be asked during my registration interview? Ultimately, you just have to speak with a cast member and discuss your condition. For the US parks, there is no definitive list of yes or no, these things are covered, these things are not. The exception here is that mobility-only disabilities alone will not qualify you for DAS. They make that very clear on the website. When you speak with a cast member during registration, they will ask you a leading question. It's probably going to be something like, what are your concerns with visiting the parks today? Or what are your concerns with waiting in line? Maybe what issues do you have navigating the queue? Or why do you think DAS would help? Or why do you think you qualify for DAS? They are not explicitly going to ask you, what is your disability? Why do you think you're disabled? They will not ask for or look at any medical documentation that you bring. At this point, just have an honest, brief conversation with a cast member about why you do think you qualify and how it would help you. Try to explain your limitations with waiting in a traditional queue without a lot of trauma dumping onto the cast member. Remember, these are just people working their day-to-day jobs on the other end of this. These are not therapists. And then the cast member will make a determination. The next theme topic is, how will the cast member respond to what I say? How do I ensure that I get DAS, or are there magic words to get into the program? After you explain your situation to the cast member, here is, in my mind, ideally what would happen on their end. If you're new to the program, they should probably explain to you how DAS functions, and very specifically that it will not get you to the front of the line, and also that you might end up waiting longer. They may or may not let you know if they think it would help you based on what you've shared about your condition. If whatever you've explained about your condition is a fairly gray area in your mind, hopefully again, they've explained the program to you, you've talked back to them about why you think that would actually be helpful, and then again, hopefully, ideally, they would just get you enrolled. I know this doesn't always happen. I've had a lot of you tell me about really bad experiences with trying to get into DAS when you think you qualify. Ultimately, it is a judgment call up to that cast member, and not every interaction is ideal. In terms of what you should say, I really can't advise anything other than being open and honest. There really are no magic words to guarantee your enrollment into the DAS program. And if anyone's sharing in the comments what they believe are magic words, I will delete those comments. You are more than welcome to share your experience if you feel comfortable, but let's not encourage people to cheat the system with magic words. Moving on, next is, when can you register for DAS Advance? We did go over this in the prior video, but I've had a lot of questions about it since, so it is 2 to 30 days before your first park visit. So if you're going down to Orlando early and you're going to do a couple hotel nights before you ever enter a park, it's from that first park day, not from when you check into a hotel. I've also had several of you ask me about how this works for split stays. This is not addressed in public information about DAS, so I think there may be some variance cast member to cast member. I did ask a cast member last time I was down at Disney World, and here is what I was told. If you're doing split stays, but it's contiguous all on property, they said, yeah, 30 days before your first park day, I don't really care if you're changing hotels. We can get you enrolled in DAS Advance, so you can pick your 2 selections for every park each day for all your park days through your stay. If you're doing a split stay where you're moving off-site, it sounds like it may be a different story. Again, this is probably a little bit up to each individual cast member, so your mileage may vary. And if you're doing a split stay, even if it's contiguous and on property, you may have to come back into the chat to do your DOS Advance ride selections for the second part of your stay later. If you have experience with this and are comfortable sharing, please leave that in the comments down below. Sharing information is the most powerful thing we can do to help folks in this community. Next up, I've gotten a lot of questions about what attractions exactly are eligible for DOS Advance. So when you register online in advance, what are the rides you can select for your 2 advance registrations per park day? There is a website for this. I will leave a link in the description below. Definitely check the website because these are subject to change. Generally speaking though, it's going to be the rides that have Lightning Lane, except for rides that are part of the individual Lightning Lane paid attractions and rides with a virtual queue. The next topic deals with using DOS while you're in the parks, so when exactly can you book your same-day DOS return time? For your first same-day DOS selection of the day, it will be after your entire party has scanned into the park. Then as you're navigating about your day, it's going to be as soon as you've redeemed that DOS time you have. So for example, let's say I'm going to the Magic Kingdom in a travel party with a DOS eligible and registered guest. As soon as we have all scanned into Magic Kingdom, we can then make our first DOS selection, let's say Big Thunder Mountain. We then do our waiting, return when we are eligible, and then once we have all scanned in at Big Thunder Mountain, we can go into the My Disney Experience app and look at what we may want to wait for next. So before you've even actually ridden Big Thunder Mountain and got off, you can join another line through DOS in the My Disney Experience app. Note that there are some rides at Disney World that do have 2 scan points, so you'll do it right when you enter the queue and then again sometime partway through the queue. I think Frozen Ever After is still like this, for example. So if you are in the queue and unable to make a next DOS selection, it's likely you just have to scan again at some point in that queue. What's the maximum party size for DOS? So generally speaking, it is 6 total, the DOS user, plus 5 guests. If your travel party is slightly larger, say it's you as an adult, 1 other adult, and 5 children, go speak with guest relations in person at a theme park and see if they can make an exception for you. Be kind, be gentle, be nice. It definitely can happen, but it's not a guarantee. If your party is huge, if you have like 19 people and 1 DOS user, you're not going to get an exception for a party that big. Let's talk about a discourse I've had with a lot of you about wait times not being fair and it disadvantaging DOS users. Since the parks have reopened since pandemic time, really wait times have been fairly inflated. I think that's pretty across the board true. I certainly sympathize with that and totally understand how it can feel like a huge disadvantage to a DOS user. That being said, some of this is accounted for in how the system works. Almost always, DOS users get a reduced wait time compared to the posted standby time. So for example, if the posted standby time is 60 minutes, the DOS user may only have to wait 40 to 50 minutes for their return window to open up. But of course, you then return through the Lightning Lane, and that queue can be long as well. It definitely can get backed up, that's just the reality of things. So continuing the same example of a posted 60-minute standby wait, let's say you have waited virtually for 50 minutes, and then you go return through the Lightning Lane, it's another 25. At the end of the day, yes, you are waiting longer than people who were able to just scan through the normal standby queue, assuming they did make it through in 60 minutes. It's definitely frustrating, and again, I sympathize, but from a corporate point of view, the terms and conditions have Disney covered. They very clearly state that you may end up waiting longer than the posted standby time. An idea I've been pitched a lot, which by the way, again, I don't work at Disney, I have no influence in the sphere, but anyway, a common idea I've been pitched is that because the wait times are so unfair, DOS users should be able to hold more than 1 return time for the same day return times at a time. Again, from a corporate point of view, this is fairly easy to shoot down. A guest that is not utilizing the DOS system cannot be in 2 standby lines at the same time, so why should DOS users get to do that? Additionally, like we talked about earlier, DOS users can effectively join their next virtual queue while they're still in line for a ride, which again, guests not using DOS or not paying for an additional service like Genie Plus can't do that. Plus, with the way the system works now, you can actually hold up to 3 DOS return times at one time. Remember, you get 2 DOS advanced selections and then your 1 same-day return time. Multiple times I've also heard the notion that inflating wait times is to punish DOS users. Again, I don't work for the Disney Corporation, I don't sit in on high-level meetings, so we can't ever really be sure what the deal with inflated wait times is. I do talk to the cast members though that work at the attractions a lot, and they all emphatically and very genuinely say that the goal is to post accurate wait times. For some of the rides that are known to go down, I've had a couple cast members tell me they inflate the wait time on purpose because they anticipate that the ride is going to go down and they're going to need 20 minutes to bring it back up. And then there's plenty of times when rides need to halt for a little bit to help a non-transferable guest into or out of the ride vehicle. That also adds time, so they mentally may be banking some of that into the posted wait time, and then maybe you have 30 minutes go by without any guests coming through in a wheelchair, so I think they're trying their best, honestly. I certainly don't think it's with malice towards DOS users that the wait times are inflated. I've also heard a lot of folks assert that Genie Plus has made DOS so much worse. Maybe compared to the very old system, I totally get that, but compared to the FastPass Plus system, it doesn't seem that different to me as an outsider. The FastPass lane, now the Lightning lane, accommodates more than just DOS, obviously. It was FastPass users and now Genie Plus users, DOS users, VIP tours, guest recovery. There may be other circumstances where that line gets used, which can definitely back it up. And for sure, that Lightning lane can get really long, and I'm sure that's frustrating. But if when it's your return time, you go over to the ride and you think the Lightning lane is too long for you to stand in, your return time doesn't expire. So you can go sit down, take a break, go do something else, eat, back to the hotel, come back. You can always ride later once the Lightning lane is less congested. And again, really from the corporate point of view, the terms and conditions just have them covered. With both FastPass Plus and Genie Plus, the return times for folks using that system are inventory-based. You can't have an infinite number of people coming between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. to ride Big Thunder through the Lightning lane. So the ride availability does sell out at some point, whether that was Genie Plus or FastPass Plus. So for DOS users, it shouldn't have really changed that much. If I'm missing something about this, please explain it to me in the comments down below. I've had a lot of in-depth conversations with folks via email and direct message, and no one's really been able to explain it to me clearly. And at least on the upside, Genie Plus has added functionality to DOS that we didn't have before. So you can get return times on the My Disney Experience app. I think that's a huge quality of life update. And that advanced online registration saves you time in the parks, and you can get those 2 advanced rides per park day way before you ever even step foot to Disney World. So yes, it's a very imperfect system, whether that was Genie Plus or FastPass Plus, but at least with the Genie Plus updates, there have been a couple of upsides. Speaking of Genie Plus, I've had a lot of people ask me that if they're going to register for DOS successfully, do they also need to buy Genie Plus? Ultimately, that's up to you. Personally, I think if you have a large travel party and a lot of you are going to want to ride the same ride at the same time, then at least some of you buying Genie Plus makes a lot of sense. Then your whole travel party can coordinate Genie Plus times with the DOS return time so you can all ride. Again, if there's like 20 of you and only one DOS user, you are not all going to be able to go on the ride at the same time with the DOS user through the DOS program. So combining DOS with Genie Plus in that way for large parties makes a lot of sense to me. Additionally, you can kind of strategize if you want to. I'm not really encouraging you to game the system, but this is very much allowed. You could do longer line attractions with Genie Plus. So for example, if you're in the Magic Kingdom, maybe you do Jungle Cruise with Genie Plus because that's often a 45+ minute wait. Then you can do shorter line attractions using DOS. That way you're doing your virtual DOS wait for way less time than having to wait, 45 minutes for Jungle Cruise and then another hour for Space Mountain or something. You could use Genie Plus for those more popular attractions and DOS for the other things. And if it's a busy time of year, but you still want to get on a decent handful of rides, combining DOS and Genie Plus may be very beneficial. And the topic I've probably had the most discourse around with a lot of you is why not the Disneyland Paris system? Why not medical documentation? And every time this has come up with folks, the conversation has been really collegial and respectful. So I ask that if we bring this up in the comments down below, we keep that tone going and make sure that this is a safe community for everyone. For those of you who don't know, Disneyland Paris has a very different system for their version of DOS. They have a list of recognized long-term chronic diseases. For example, things like stroke, heart failure, cystic fibrosis, Parkinson's disease, etc. qualify. And like DOS, their system gets guests what they call simplified but not immediate access to attractions. So with Disneyland Paris, you check the list that they have, and then if you have a condition on that list, you go get a letter from your doctor in English or French that's no more than 3 months old, and you bring that with you. If you're staying on property, you can talk to a hotel concierge or someone at the Disney parks, and basically they'll get you set up. It is very cut and dry then, so either your condition is on the list and you have access to healthcare and you can get that letter within 3 months of you being at Disneyland Paris, or your condition's not on the list. It's that simple. This is obviously great if your condition is on the list and you do have reliable access to healthcare. But then there's everyone with a disability who has a condition that's not on this cut and dry yes or no list or doesn't have good access to healthcare. Looking at the United States parks, I think it's important to note that cast members are not trained medical professionals. If you handed over documentation to them without there being this cut and dry list, how would they evaluate it? How would they look at the authenticity? The current system we have with DOS in the US allows for this gray area. And yes, that becomes a judgment call, which definitely has pros and cons. It's going to work out for some people and not for others, most likely, which isn't ideal. But how would a cast member better evaluate a gray area through a letter from your medical doctor than through a conversation with you? And I think it's worth noting that symptoms and presentation of disease varies a lot person by person, even for the same disease. For example, one person with irritable bowel syndrome may have no problem waiting in the lines, and another person may find it very, very challenging not to have easy access to a bathroom for more than about 25 minutes at a time. They technically have the same disease, presentation's totally different. The conversation they're having with a DOS cast member is also probably very different, I hope. That's not something that a cut and dry list like Disneyland Paris has can accommodate. And in this example, IBS is not on Disneyland Paris's list. If we move to the Disneyland Paris system, someone with severe IBS just probably wouldn't qualify. Because cast members aren't medical professionals, and frankly, I would guess most of them don't want to evaluate medical documentation, A letter alone doesn't make sense. It would be a letter along with the list. And in my opinion, the list is really limiting. Aside from an example like IBS, what about autism or anxiety or panic attacks? Again, those present very differently in different people, different things trigger, severity of symptoms may differ. These are all things that in the current system in the US, you can have an honest conversation with the DOS cast member about and see if DOS would help you out. At Disneyland Paris, you are just left with nothing. I am most familiar with medical documentation for accommodations in the higher ed system. And students getting correct documentation in order to get their accommodations by the time their courses start is really challenging in many places. It can be really hard for students to even obtain a letter to begin with because healthcare in this country is pretty abysmal. And then if they are able to do that, having the letter be specific enough for the Disability Service Office people to read it and grant accommodations that are meaningful is hard. A lot of people end up having to get 2 or 3 iterations of that letter. It can take months and months, especially if you have to go see a specialist, who often have very long wait lists for an appointment. In the case of higher ed, 98% of the time, students are honestly, genuinely just trying to get accommodations they need to level the playing field so they can take their courses and pursue their learning. It's very pure in that sense. As opposed to Disney, what you're after is not waiting in the standby line, which for folks without a disability obviously sounds nice. So it's less pure in that sense, and we've seen the system abused a ton in the past. So trying to imagine a world where the Disney parks move to a system where all you would need is a medical letter, not accompanied by that yes and no super restrictive list of diseases that qualify, but let's just say you need a letter, then how do they deal with the authenticity issue? Because there absolutely is a black market for this stuff even in the higher ed system where, again, the goal is fairly pure. If we moved to Disney where the goal is to spend less time waiting in lines, well, that is just going to be rife for abuse. Overall, I can certainly appreciate that the Disneyland Paris system is very easy. If you have one of those conditions and access to healthcare, it's going to be so cut and dry. There's no room for judgment. Cast members aren't having to talk to you to decide, yes, no, do you qualify, right? It's, does your medical letter say you have XYZ condition? Is that condition on my list? Yes, great, let's get you enrolled. That does seem very simple and great on the surface. In the US, though, the current DOS system we have accommodates a much wider range of disabilities and folks that don't have good access to healthcare. So yes, this opens it up to be abused more than the Disneyland Paris system. There's no getting around that. But personally, I am always in favor of more of the people who need help getting the help they need, if that allows a few more snakes in, than shrinking it down to where more of those people who need help don't even qualify to get it. There certainly is no perfect solution. But I did want to raise this issue in this larger public format compared to the private conversations I've had with many of you, because I just think sitting here and advocating for why don't we get rid of DOS and just change to the Disneyland Paris system is going to leave a lot of people out of accommodations who truly rely on them, benefit from them, and genuinely need them. I hope this second video covering the Disability Access Service program at Walt Disney World has been helpful. We got into some more nitty-gritty details and covered some bigger themes that come up often, trying to address those frequently asked questions. If there are additional questions you have, please go ahead and leave those in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to get you a useful answer. Remembering again, though, that I'm not and never have been an employee of Disney. So there just is some information behind closed doors that I don't have access to and never will. Probably the best result of making that first DOS video, though, is all of the comments from folks who genuinely have benefited from the DOS system, use it with a good heart, good intention, and it makes their vacations much more magical. That's why Disney has the system, and I'm so happy to know that it is helping you all out. As with just about all things in this country related to disability and accessibility, there's a lot of room for improvement, sure, but at the end of the day, it is currently helping people, and that makes me so happy. I love hearing your good stories. Thanks to everyone who has liked the video, subscribed to the channel, commented down below, and shared with friends. I truly appreciate it. May the rest of your day be magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.